why would we have ambassadors representing the state that do not understand clearly what their terms of reference are?
These are the cards that I have drawn, that I am the minister at this point in time. And for members of the public...
But you're also a servant of the people. The unions are not threatening to withdraw their labor, and neither are they threatening to shut the country down, as you did.
I think your summarization of my position is highly inaccurate, and may I dare say a bit inflammatory.
The strategy did not work the last time for you. So what would make this?
Well, you're assuming that we're doing the same strategy.
Hello and welcome to the March 27th edition of the Bubb Report. Last week, Grenada played host to international cricket between Team West Indies and England at the National Stadium. The third test match brought hundreds of British spectators to the island, in addition to hundreds of Grenadian expatriates who returned to the country to be a part of this major sporting event. The cricket match also brought much fanfare to the National Stadium, with record-breaking crowds attending the event, against the backdrop of easing pandemic protocols that saw both vaccinated and unvaccinated fans occupying seats in the stadium. Grenada's tourism minister, appearing on the Government Information Service platform last week, heralded the significance of the return of some measure of normalcy to the island.
Economic implications, there are possibilities for income generation and for people to recoup to some extent what they lost or what they missed during the COVID period. So it is a happy time for us, and of course the cricket will top it all off starting on Thursday. I know that Grenada Tourism Authority has aggressively marketed this together with Spice Mass and everybody else is involved who played their role, and we've seen the results now, and over the next few days we will see even more.
Team West Indies is favoured to win this match after England's dramatic collapse when it was their turn to run up the score at the pitch and hold Team West Indies off from chasing their meagre total. This week on our program, we shine a spotlight on Grenada's hosting of international cricket with one of the local organizers. Also on the report, we sit with two dynamic women to discuss and make sense of the state of women in 2022 as the world begins to bring the curtain down on Women's History Month. Women's History Month is a dedicated month to reflect on the often overlooked contributions of women to world history. The actual celebration of Women's History Month grew out of a week-long celebration of women's contribution to culture, history, and society, initially organized by a school district in Sonoma, California in 1978. Presentations were given at dozens of schools, in which hundreds of students participated in a Real Woman essay contest, and a parade was also held in downtown Santa Rosa. The National Women's History Alliance designates a yearly theme for Women's History Month. The 2022 theme is, quote, "Women providing healing, promoting hope," unquote. This theme is both a tribute to the ceaseless work of caregivers and frontline workers during this ongoing pandemic, and also a recognition of the thousands of ways that women across all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history. And finally, Grenadian playwright Francis Urias Peters, who has used the creative arts through theatre productions to highlight the major issues affecting society, is adding another creative production to his repertoire of famous stage plays. The new production, titled The Songbook of Urias Peters, is a musical presentation that would offer a chance for retrospection and reflection on his many years producing high-quality plays. Francis Urias Peters studied drama in education and theatre arts at Jamaica's Edna Manley College of the Performing Arts, and in 2012 he was recognized as one of its top 50 outstanding alumni during its 50th anniversary celebration. We welcome our guests, member of the local cricket organizing committee Troy Garvey, playwright Francis Urias Peters, Giselle Frederick, Impact Tech founder and a UK delegate to the UN Commission on the Status of Women, and former president of the Grenada Senate and attorney Leslie Sion. We thank you for joining us. A pleasant good morning to all our viewers and listeners, and we welcome you to the last episode of the Bubb Report for the month of March. Now, the opening editorial would focus on the ability to breathe again. And when the modern history of the Caribbean is written, the last 2 years would undoubtedly be framed within the depressing context of death, disease, and darkness, a macabre atmosphere that enveloped one of the most idyllic places on planet Earth due to the debilitating effects of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Though the worst aspect of this public health emergency may be over, with the caveat that new and milder subvariants are still spreading across the world, Grenada and its Caribbean neighbors are beginning to exhale. The much welcomed removal of social distancing, quarantine, and testing requirements couldn't come at a better time. This weekend, the Spice Isle is hosting international cricket at the National Stadium, and the jubilant scenes from the stands with the teeming hordes of fans from rival teams was a delight to see, in addition to the cultural displays on the near recesses of the pitch, is emblematic of a society that is experiencing a cathartic moment. This year, the Intercall Games would also return, giving the nation's high schoolers a treat, a therapeutic balm, if you will, after its long and painful hiatus due to protracted labor disputes, in addition to a very protracted period of crippling lockdowns, which dealt a severe blow to social activities among this very special population segment. Grenada's premier summer festival also returns in August, which would give islanders and their counterparts in the expat community an opportunity to exhale and breathe a collective sigh of relief to the rhythmic sounds of soca, steel, and drums. There is some truth in the old adage that it's always the darkest before the dawn. And may we all revel in this new dawn that is upon us, even though it might be for a fleeting moment, bringing with it new possibilities and new opportunities for a brighter future. And at this time, I wish to welcome my first guest. He is one of the organizers of the local organizing committee for the hosting of the West Indies versus England game at the Grenada National Stadium. Mr. Troy Garvey, I wish to welcome you to the Bubb Report.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Good morning to all your viewers and persons who are fortunate to enjoy your platform. Good morning to everyone.
Absolutely, Troy. Now tell us, it does appear as if Team West Indies is on track to win this game. What is the mood down there at the National Stadium?
Well, it's twofold. We are seeing lots of sad faces from the Barmy Army, and they are in their numbers out here, and I'm sure they're expecting a different result, but and even a longer game. But at this stage, West Indies is batting for a second time. I think there are 2 without loss, and they have to score 28 runs for an historic victory. First time West Indies winning a test match here in Grenada, and also winning the Richards Botham Trophy for the very first time. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. A major win for Team West Indies, but even a bigger win for Team Grenada, a huge win for Grenada for hosting this event at this level and delivering at such a very high level to bring the benefits to this country.
Absolutely, and victory all around, and I think my editorial tended to reflect that as well. Now, did the match meet all of the expectations of the planning committee? Did everything go off without any glitches?
Well, as a person who led the process, from day one, I told everyone, this is much bigger than cricket for us. As a host country, the cricket is going to play. We have delivered cricket at this level, at the very highest level since 2007 with the Cricket World Cup, and we have continued to do so. The benefits, the importance of us delivering is activities and events off the field, around the game. And that's why we saw a very aggressive approach by the Grenada Tourism Authority and other agencies of government. And this was coordinated and came together so beautifully. At times, you have a wish list and you wish for things to happen. And this event, we set our goals and our objectives. And you wanted West Indies, first and foremost, we were happy to get the game. 3 test matches, England coming to the Caribbean, one of the biggest and strongest rivalries in test cricket. We got that. Then we got the 3rd game. We hope it would have been important to the overall tournament. Came down, we had 2 drawn games in Antigua and Barbados, and we came to Grenada, and we're going to get a result. The weather was fantastic weather, so beautiful on the outside. We had hundreds of persons, visitors, coming to our shores specifically for this cricket encounter. Loads of persons from across the pond. And everything just came together so beautifully, and Grenada delivered. Grenada is the biggest winner here today as a result of this event. That's why I think persons are so happy that the visitor experience, A1, the game was fantastic. All the elements came together. I spoke to the hierarchy of the RGPF just this morning. No major incidents to report. All the persons safe and sound. And these are the things that we are looking for. These are the things that will complement the Grenada product. The viewership, having the country exposed over 3.5 days, 4 days to the sights, the sceneries, the sounds. It's just mind-boggling. If you saw River Road after every game, if you saw the city of St. George's after every match, after every day, you cannot get a rent-a-car in the country. All hotels are filled, the restaurants are filled, the tour operators are smiling as a result of this cricket. For these 5 days, Grenada stood tall, Grenada did well, and kudos to Team Grenada at this time as we about to get back to a state of normalcy, as we about to try it best way possible to put this pandemic behind us and have this country moving in the right direction once again.
Now, and I know you have to go, so I do appreciate the time you're taking to speak with us. What about ticket sales to the game? Did we see an increasing demand for ticket sales after some of those COVID restrictions were lifted?
Let me make it absolutely clear, abundantly clear. The benchmarks, Grenada has a stadium that has a capacity of about 15,000 people. We will never, unless it's Jesus Christ that's coming, or we will never be able as a people to fill this to its capacity. What we have seen, one, unlike in Antigua and in Barbados, an increased number of local patronage. Team West Indies felt at home. Although they were playing in Barbados, the sounds of the English was so much stronger. Not here in Grenada. There are much more locals in the stand. There are much more persons in the stand. And the reality, we know for a fact we will never be able to fill this facility. And that is not one of our benchmarks in ensuring the success. The success is beyond the field of play. The activities and the portrayals of Spice Mass, the friendliness of our people. You meet the visitors. As a matter of fact, I gave 2 persons a ride to the stadium, picked them up randomly, trying to get here, trying to get this interview done. 2 British fans, sad that the British team is losing, but was so happy about this country. First time here, and it's unbelievable that someone could have offered them a ride, take them directly to the stadium to enjoy the game. They spoke so highly about this country, its beauty, its people, and so much more. It's just mind-boggling. And I wouldn't hasten to say again that Grenada won big time as a result of hosting this event. Everything went well. There might have been some minor hitches here or there, like any event. But if I'm going to look at what is happening here, there's a feeling of joy as at this moment, as Team West Indies is about to make history again, beating England here in Grenada to hold on to the newly Richards Botham Trophy.
And 2 final questions, Troy. The first one, talk to us about the pre-carnival promotions that unfolded at the stadium. Now, you did mention it there, but how did that play out, and how do you think that would impact interest in Spice Mass 2022?
Okay, as I said, it's all about Grenada. It's all about being strategic in what you do. The timing of this event felt just right for the Spice Mass Corporation. We ventured into Carriacou Carnival, again with the COVID pandemic looming. We were able to do Carriacou Carnival with nothing major coming out as relates to the pandemic. The decision was taken to reverse the vaccination mandate, and an appeal was made to the Ministry of Health to incorporate it into this event. And we are seeing the success. We incorporated Spice Mass to position branding. As a matter of fact, I spearheaded the operation. You will see branding around the ground, strategically placed to catch the camera for the international audience. And these are things that you have to plan and try to get it as close as possible. And I think we got it right. The message was simple, Grenada. The message was specific, Spice Mass, August 1st to 9th. These are things that you're seeing, and we are hoping it might not be this year, might be next year, but the message is out there. And we use this platform very skillfully to really promote, to showcase something that is coming later on in the year. Again, another win for Grenada.
And finally, Troy, there's a lot of background work that goes into hosting international games of this magnitude. Were there any aspects of your organizing that could have done better? You did say there were some hiccups, but what would you learn from these hiccups in moving forward?
We have been doing this at this level since 2007. And the noises that you're hearing in the background is Team West Indies getting closer to a victory in Grenada.
How many more runs? How many more runs?
Here at the stadium.
How many more runs?
I think it's about 12. About
12 runs. Okay.
7 runs needed.
7 runs needed. Okay.
And so let's hope that we can be live, so you can be a part of this historic event. And no, as an organizer, and somebody like me, who I strive for perfection, and I try to avoid being average or being mediocre. We can always look at ways and means to improve and do it better. And every experience is a learning experience for another time. There are lots of things that probably we could have done better, and probably we'll do better in the future. But I'm not going to sit back and at this point in time, there will be a process and a place and time for reflection and for some level of a post-mortem. But right now, I think that the objectives were met, all deliverables were delivered. They were delivered at the highest level, And I think, barring the Barmy Army, who are sad, I think they had a very good game. And let's hope the next 2 days that they can really go out and enjoy the country, see our waterfalls, see our beaches, enjoy our restaurants, enjoy the true Grenadian feel outside of the stadium. But kudos to Team West Indies for a job well done. The icing on the cake for a true good Grenadian, sound Grenadian victory.
Absolutely, 7 runs. Can you give us what's the score? Is it still 7 runs? Is it
I
still
did not
7
hear
runs
that,
left?
Kalon.
Is it still 7 runs left?
About six runs left.
6 runs left. Okay.
I'm not too sure if I lift the camera above my head. You
Yes,
have an understanding
I
of
am
what's
able to
happening
see.
on
Yes.
the pitch and field right now. That's what's happening on the pitch and field right now. You're still hearing the horns and the trumpets of the Barmy Army in these dying moments, but they are enjoying themselves, and that is what is so important at this point in time. But
Yeah,
it's very, very definitely.
the match was supposed to end yesterday, so this is a really low scoring game.
Well, it was a very balanced game, I must say, until yesterday, because at the end of the first innings, the teams were equally poised, and we did not expect such a drop off by the English team. But again, Team West Indies step up. They had their strategies in place and they delivered. And I think that it's going to be a massive celebration here this afternoon in St. George's.
And how do you plan to celebrate after working so hard? Did you hear me, Troy? I don't know if you heard that. How do you plan to celebrate after working so hard?
The work continues.
The work continues.
There are persons who are going to be celebrating. But as we say in doing these big events and all events, what go up must come down. So the whole system of the work, you have to work back now, getting the broadcast teams out, getting everything back, out. The process doesn't stop, for days. There are persons who will continue and to work, on and on. And before I slip away, we must say a very special thank you to our ground staff. The staff here who deliver the pitch and field, because we can do everything outside of. The most important element is that of the pitch and field. And our ground staff under Mr. Holas and Ken Crafton from CWI, those guys delivered at a very highest level. I think they just got a bit closer. And,
okay.
there are a number of persons. The Cricket Association, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Sport. 2 runs required at this point in time is all part of a historic victory. And all the persons, from the Ministry of Sport, from the Ministry of Finance, all the stakeholders, I must again emphasize the role of the cartel of the GTA, the Tourism Authority. They were, aggressive on the ball, and was just a great feel to have this event here. And trust me, it's a great win for Grenada. A good feel. We got this right. We did this right. And I think in the now and the medium, even the long term, we will see the benefits and what happened here in St. George's today.
Now, sticking a pin there on the pitch, I know that in my research for this program, a lot of international commentators were actually praising the quality of the pitch. They said it was actually a good batting pitch.
Well, it was a good strip. It was a strip that was, the work went into it, and was unlike what you saw in Antigua and in Barbados. The strip is grassed, 100% grassed, and the staff did a fantastic job. It was a pitch designed to bring a result for the team that played better. And on this occasion, the team that played better was the men in maroon. And I think we should congratulate them.
The men in maroon, and I think this is you mentioned the COVID-19 pandemic, but the West Indies has also been experiencing a crisis of victory over a period of time. So I think this would be a good lift in morale for the team as well.
That's what makes it so special. That's what makes it so special. They have been going through some tough times, and to come up against their biggest rivalry. And the celebration is on.
It looks like the game is over. Team West Indies has won. And the game is over. Absolutely. Congratulations to Team West Indies on winning the third test in St. George's, Grenada, at the Grenada National Stadium. Three cheers to Team West Indies. defeating the English in the third test. Troy, thank you so much for sharing that moment with us.
I don't think you could have asked for any better than what you got on the program. And,
absolutely.
I thank you for reaching out. And again, I must say that this was congratulations to Team West Indies, but this was a victory for Grenada. Grenada stood tall, and for the next couple of days, we will urge persons to continue doing what they should be doing, ensuring that the visitor experience is so great and treat our visitors how we are accustomed to treating them. And again, congratulations to everyone. And Kellon, thank you to you and your panel. Enjoy the rest of your day. But I must leave now to go and continue the duties of state.
Absolutely, Troy. Thank you again. That's Troy Garvey, the chairman of the local organizing committee for the test match, to just conclude the test match where Team West Indies won. Thank you, Troy. And we will take a quick break, listeners, and we'll be back with our next guest for the program.
Very proud of what you're doing, and I think it's much needed. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you again for watching the Bubb Report. Viewers and listeners, we want to thank you sincerely. Senator Chester Humphrey, welcome to the Bubb Report. Mr. Mitchell, welcome to the program. The Honorable Jumani Williams, we call him Jumani, who is the public advocate for the city of New York. The Honorable Basdio Pandey, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Pandey, welcome to the Bubb Report. And welcome back, folks. I'm happy to be joined by my next guest. He is no stranger to media appearances in Grenada, and he's no stranger to the theater circuit in Grenada. As a matter of fact, I consider him a legend, a Grenadian legend, and a national treasure, and someone that we should treasure and respect as he continues to make significant contributions to the theater scene in Grenada. I'm happy to be joined by Francis Urias Peters. Francis, welcome to the Bubb Report, sir.
Thank you very much, Kellon. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Always happy to be here to share with you and also to the Grenadian folks, wherever you are in diaspora, even locally or within the Caribbean region. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. I'm sure you're probably elated at the Team West Indies victory at the National Stadium down there in St. George's.
Very much so, and it seems as though things are lining up. I always say that there's a divine order that orders things, and look at that. We are here on the report, and yet still you are the one through your medium. We have gotten the wonderful news, and this is sports and the culture is so good for our people's psyche. When the West Indies they're doing well, we feel well. When we go to a good show, listen to a good song, it really, really affects us positively. So I was very, very happy on March 27th for that news and to see it actually on the Bubb Report.
Especially in the context of what we've been experiencing as a country. Before the program, I heard you and my other guest, Leslie and Sion, talking about just the challenges that the country has been experiencing over the last 3 years, really, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the mental health challenges, the psychosocial challenges that we presented with. So therefore, this must be a good psychological lift for the population at this time.
Yes, and we take it for granted, Kellon, because I always say here we focus so much on what is called the social infrastructure, building the roads, building traffic lights, building stadiums or stadiums. But the social infrastructure is so very, very as equally as important. I remember going to GBSS in my days. My best subject was sports, but after school or during the break time, we played table tennis. People were in the cadets. We played football, cricket. So we had time to burn energy. Now a lot of the students during the pandemic and this period don't have that opportunity. So that is why sometimes you might see that they are challenging their energies into negative avenues. So we have to take note. We have to take stock and take note, and to use arts and to use sports, in order to address those issues.
Now, Francis, tell us the inspiration, segueing into your play. Tell us the inspiration behind. It's not really a play, but it's a musical that is started to get on the way very soon. Tell us the inspiration behind it.
All right. So even before I go into that, let me say again, I'm very, very happy and very honored. March 27th every year is celebrated as International Theatre Day. So here I am, March 27th, on the Bubb Report, giving me that opportunity. It was not planned. As I say here to me, this is what is called the divine order. Here I am on March 27th on the International Theatre Day, talking to you about the production. And I'm very, very happy for this opportunity. As a theatre practitioner, and as I said, that all arts aspire towards music, the rhythm. I've done many things over the years. One-man plays. I've done plays with two actors, two actresses. I've done plays that looks at a courtroom drama. But for the past 30 to 40 years, a lot of people maybe haven't realized that most of the theme songs and even the music in my play, they are original music. And sometimes people ask me why I do that, but of course, theater is so very, very expensive to produce, and especially where you don't have what is called a thriving and a large population in the private sector who are going to contribute to the arts. It is always a struggle. So I have to write the music to cut back. And I've just thought here that over the past 2 years, we have not done anything substantial. And the lifting of the restrictions and, of course, the pandemic situation seems to be on the improve. I thought, what a better moment, but to use music as our first production. Because if you go back to our history, one of the things that our parents were not, their master did not prevent them from doing was singing. So that's why even in the Caribbean, you find singing and the dancing is still the most powerful aspect of our culture. And it's good for stress relief, because our parents on the estates, or even when my mother and my aunt, they were washing, they sang. When we had to work the land, they sang. So singing eased the pain. So I just thought that this might be a nice contribution and a nice gift to the theater goers for me to focus on what we call the songs that I've composed over the years. And hence the reason why I've decided to do this production. It's 90 minutes at the Labucan Creative Center. And I'm going to feature in a lot of my songs that I've composed, but at the same time, looking at the musical influences, because I'm saying here, we have the folk influence, we have the reggae, we have calypso, the prayer songs, songs from the Shango, the Baptist, the spiritual Baptist, the jab, the gospels, all these rhythms that have influenced me. You are going to hear that in the songs that we're going to be presenting. We're supposed to have started this weekend, but we are pushed back to next weekend and the following weekend at the Labucan Creative Center.
Absolutely. Now, Francis, is this your first musical, or have you done musicals before?
Well, in the strict sense of the word, no. I mean, we have done folk recitals already, but I've done also a play with music, a play called Struggle, in 1987. That was the first big play that was responsible, I think, for sparking of that new appreciation for theater in Grenada. So I've done that, and we're going to be featuring a lot of the songs from Struggle, and I'm going to be showing the influence of the jab and the shortney and the Shango and the spiritual Baptist influence, and the reggae and the calypso on the music that I've created, because I consider to myself to be my cultural experience as a boy growing up was rooted in the mud of St. Andrew in Marquis, and I can't get out of that mud. When I say mud, mud is what grows the fruits and the plants. So so Struggle was the first play I actually used the music in, and from after that, the theme songs for the other productions, I created it. So that's what we are going to be showcasing. And I must say that go ahead.
I like that you say that you're rooted in the mud of Marquis. The metaphor for mud there reflects that grounding
Yes,
that
yes.
humility, and that is so powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get out of it, And that is why even the regular man and woman on the streets, I pass in and I see the guys cleaning the road, I stop and say thank you. The folks who the garbage men, I stop, I respect them, I bow, and with that sort of humility, because when I grew up, that is, the village brought me up. I felt loved and respected by every single member of that community, whether it's in Marquis or in Lagoon Road, where I was born. So it's almost impossible for me to get out of that mode. And you'll find a lot of the themes, that affect the average man and woman, they are reflected in the play, because this is what I believe. So whenever I do a play or whenever I do any dramatic or cultural presentation, those things are reflect. This is what I believe, and they are presented most powerfully in the presentations.
Now, who would constitute the rest of the cast, or would this be a one-man show?
No, no. My daughter Zelika she's going to be one of the lead singers, and the good thing about Zelika, since Zelika was 3, 4, I had her on the table singing, and never did I know that after so many years now that those informal training will come into fruition. So Zelika will be doing the lead, and also Jonathan Francis, another young and upcoming Grenadian vocalist. Jonathan will be there with Zelika. And quite naturally, we have a 3-piece band. Monty Drayton is going to be on the drums, the djembe drums. Ronnie Marisho. And Ronnie, again, is an iconic figure where music is concerned. Ronnie is going to be on the lead guitar. And we have Bob, I call him Bob, and his right name is Tajil. He is going to be doing the bass. And when it comes to the basic folk, and just to show how that influence has impacted me, of course, I'm going to pick up the guitar, and Ronnie's going to accompany us on the quattro. So I might be doing a little bit of singing. I'm not necessarily a singer in the class of Zelika and Jonathan, a lot of the Grenadian talent that you have. No, but I will. once the drum starts, Kellan, and the quattro starts to ring, and the guitar, it's impossible for me to remain silent. So I'm going to be doing a little thing there, but not others. And then there will be the video, some of the clips from our past productions, photographs. And so that I'll be showcasing some of those elements as we have the conversations, because the interviews also will be conducted by Johnny and Zelika based on my experience. And I think World Theatre Day 27th, one of the focus also is on what we pass on to the young generation. So it will be a wonderful opportunity for the audience also to understand my journey, because a lot of times when you see a production, you say, wow, this is good, but you don't know the amount of work that it takes to put those productions together. The amount of years I've been doing theater for over 4 decades, over 40 years, so at least they will be understanding more about the playwright and a little bit of the songwriter.
I had an opportunity to learn at your feet by way of my drama class at the TMI Community College. I took that as an elective. And that really had I don't know if you remember that. You probably taught so many students.
Yes.
But I do remember taking that class, because I do have a flair for the dramatics.
Okay. I didn't even remember that. I hope you enjoyed the classes.
I really did. I
Yes,
really enjoyed. I really enjoyed drama class. I learned about stage placement. I learned about song and dance and the role that plays, and really the grounded cultural tradition, right? And that really had an impact on my life even to today. So thank you for that. And we have another comment here from a viewer who's saying, drama was an avenue for me as a teen in Grenada to throw all my worries and home stress away. Keep pressing on, Mr. Peters. Always loved your work. Now, speaking of stress, over the last 2 years, what role did theater play in really helping people to make sense of the pandemic, or really just to take their minds away from what was and still is a very stressful time in Grenada?
Well, if we speak about Grenada in particular, we didn't have much of an opportunity because of the COVID protocols. There was not much opportunity for people to gather. However, not just too long ago, I think at the Trade Center, the Heritage Theatre Company had a production, there's a play called Julian Fedor, I think that was 2 years in the making, and that was well attended. It was Chris Derriggs was the playwright and the theater director. So you could see that people wanted some place to go. However, what I must say for me personally, the way I survived the COVID, the stresses, was going on the television, looking at the funny shows, even for instance, like a person like Trevor Noah, with the perspective he takes on issues, bring humor to it, even though he is dealing with serious issues. Those things help me to relieve a lot of stresses. I go back to old movies that I like. So it only shows the importance of the arts, the theater, and the music. What I did, however, personally, was I was hired by the Child Protection Authority to do a 16-part radio drama on parenting during the COVID era. And I really have to compliment and take my hats off to them, because a lot of times we don't understand the power of teaching through the arts. So it was a 16-part radio drama. It was well received by the Grenadian public. And I think, as I believe that there's more need for more creativity to be added to the Grenadian, the content of radio. And I just wish that I could get more of those opportunities, to do radio drama, to address issues that are affecting us, but put it into a very entertaining concept. And I'm sure that we might see much more positive spin-off, because you look at what's happening here right now with what we say is youth violence. In 1996, Galan, they had a number of youth who committed crime and by using the knife. And I decided not to.
I do remember the era of the Ginger Crew, crew, and the were called the Bloods, and
yes,
all of that, and that was back in my day in high school.
Right.
So
look at that.
Yes. It's a perennial issue, and sometimes
yes.
I think when these issues like what we saw in the town of St. George happen, we tend to blow these things out of proportion, such that it becomes a moral panic.
Yes.
And, we have to be able to highlight positive young people.
Yes.
I wish the positive young people in society who are doing positive things would also go viral as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Especially there are many young people in your theater as well who do positive things, so positive, So go ahead.
Yeah. So when you see those, and what we have now is, because we have the everybody has a cell phone, so they have taken off photographs and showing all these things. But in my times too, we had the children used to fight almost every day after school. I know at one time when I grew up in Marquis, there's one particular time when the guys from Munich could not go past the Marquis, etc. You had shortneys, used to be fighting, chopping. So I'm saying here is just that what we're seeing it more on a constant regularity because of social media. But I would tell you, in '96. You had that happening, and of course the gangs. And what I did was I've done a play called The David Story, or Sister Hang, which was also developed as a very short film for the juvenile justice advocacy for the OECS. So it's important here that we use the theater and the arts. And I'll tell folks that even in the development of the Greek society, they had warring factions, warring tribes. And the only time when that society settled and came together was one of the leaders of one of these tribes decided, listen, we're going to use the theater, we're going to use the arts, and they had competition, drama and theater competition instead, and that's what brought Greek, as one nation, and then democracy came at the same time. You found a person like Eric Matthew Gary, who loved the arts, had made the people tour. I know Maurice Bishop was one person who really loved the arts. So I think that the arts is what's going to be responsible for saving us as a Caribbean people. And unless we really get to understand that, we are going to be spinning top in mud as we move forward to finding problems, to solve the problems that face our Caribbean communities.
Absolutely. And we have some other comments here. A viewer is saying, Jose Ernesto is saying, Mr. Peters, we are seeing that most countries have been lifting out of their restrictions for traveling to the diaspora. Question: would we in the diaspora, will we be seeing more theater from Grenada to give us feelings of home? And then we have another comment from Alistair Charles, who's saying, I can attest that comic relief greatly helped me to cope with the stress brought about by the pandemic.
Yes, it's a good question, because I wrote a play on the Grenada Revolution that was called Redemption Time. It was first staged in 2013. 2023 is going to mark 40 years since the demise of the Grenada Revolution. 40 years is said to be a generation. And I would really love to do a tour of the diaspora with that play, Redemption Time, because it is a genuine Grenadian story. Spoke of the success and the failures of the revolutions. It's set during the Gary period. And it's a play which calls for hope, because we say that we cannot turn back the hands of time, but we can learn from the past. And the people without a sense of the history, of the past history, according to Marcus Garvey, it is like a tree without roots. So I really, really would like to get the opportunity once again to tour the diaspora. There's also another play that I have called Mayhem in Paradise, which addresses a lot of the issues that are facing us, even right here in Grenada, where the average Grenadian, the young people, it's difficult for them to buy a piece of land. However, with a rich person coming from, whether with the Euros and the US, and I'm not here talking about this negatively, we have patients even coming and getting citizenship, and they're multi-millionaires, and they could afford to buy the whole of Grenada. But if we lose the land upon which we stand, Kellan, this is what keeps us alive. This is what gives us the food. This is what gives us our power. And we continue to lose all the lands and the bays and not lose access to our beaches, then that is total mayhem. So that plays again is one which I think I would really like to tour with, because it really addresses those issues, and it defines who we are. And it also looks at the whole Caribbean value system as a way out, because I was speaking to some young people not too long ago, and it says even Grenada, and it's a problem again to the challenges that we have as small island states. No way how hard they try, it is kind of like they hardly see any way out of their present situation. And I guess that's why most of the people, you have to migrate, and the diaspora affords that opportunity, because for me, I'm the only one in my mother's 10 children who is here in Grenada. Everybody went overseas. So, we have to find those opportunities and start asking those questions. And the play addresses a lot of those issues. So I really, really, really feeling at this point in time, which I consider myself to be my legacy period, because I know my time clock is ticking, that I will really want to make a tour with the diaspora on a more constant regularity. But then it calls for sponsorship. It calls for a lot of resources, and it's very, very tough, but I would really want to do that.
And I think the Grenadian community here on the East Coast, and certainly in the United Kingdom as well, would welcome that.
Yes.
Would welcome that opportunity. Any final words from you before we get to the next segment?
Well, I just want to encourage the patrons to come to the Labukan Creative Center. That's next week, Saturday and Sunday. We start at 8 on Saturday, 7 on Sunday. And the following weekend, it's a very, very intimate space, as you have been decked on. Very, very intimate space. So we have to ask you to call 449-1353 to make your reservation. And we really, really want to looking forward to hosting. And as we depart here, I was at the book launch. That's Wendell De Riggs' book launch yesterday. I got a copy of the book. Wendell is also he celebrates a major milestone in his birthday. And just reading part of the dedication, I just want to read this as I end. It says, "The final measure," and this was taken from James Weldon Johnson. He says, "The final measure of the greatness of all peoples is the amount and the standard of the literature and art they have produced." He says, "No people that have ever produced great literature and art has ever been looked upon by the world as a distinctly inferior people." And I'm saying to me that there is a knocking at the door. There's a lot of literature coming out of Grenada right now, a lot of writers, a lot of people publishing. And I think here that arts really will have its role. So again, folks, looking forward to your support. Kellan, thank you so very much for this opportunity. And we're looking forward to great expectations next week, Saturday and Sunday, and the following Saturday and Sunday. And thank you for sharing, being the platform for sharing that West Indian victory. We really appreciate you.
No, that was good. And speaking of books, I rushed off the set to get this one. And you are so correct about.
That's Julian Fedor.
I love books. I really, really, really love books. Yes, now, this book is written by Herman Hall, who is a Grenadian American, and he's also the publisher of Everybody's Magazine. But he recently published his book on Julian Fedor. The title, Julian Fedor, Revolutionary, Patriot, and Insurrectionist. In the foreword, one of the reviewers actually said, that is Kirkus Reviews. They say that, quote, "Hall challenges the predominant narrative in published histories of Fedor's rebellion that portray Fedon as a misguided, violent, and cruel person. Rather, this book suggests he was, and remains to this day, a hero in the minds and hearts of Caribbean citizens for his brave fight against the mighty British Empire. It's interesting we're talking about the mighty British Empire in the context of the royal tour that we're seeing now. But then the reviewer goes on to say, given how little is known about Fedon's early life beyond his birth to a free black woman and a French immigrant, Hall pieces together a remarkably cohesive narrative that effectively places the revolutionary life and legacy in a wider Caribbean historical context. I know that Heritage Theatre recently put on a play by Fedon, but
Yes.
I'm bringing this up to make the point, to support the point that the role that books play
Yes.
in really advancing our civilization. And yes, go ahead.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I mean, let me shout out, I'm not sure if Herman is listening, because Herman also played a very important part in bringing us up as Family Theatre Company on at least 2 or 3 occasions to the United States of America, where the plays were well received. You know, had the opportunity to be working with Oliver Samuels and Susan Kennedy. So I know Herman very well. I'm always intrigued by the story of Julian. So I'm looking forward to reading the book, because again, I don't see history only just for the time in which it was placed, but it's a book, and I'm sure it's a story that can make for a great debate, because I always ask in my mind, suppose the revolution had been successful. What would have happened? Taking into condition what happened in Haiti, you know, where the French treated the Haitians so bad, and they were exterminated and ostracized, you know, from doing trade. So I think it's also a very good piece of literature and work for debate, you know, for intellectual debate and stimulation. And it's really, 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 really great to see, you know, those stories coming out, because we need to know our history. So whether you argue with it or not, we need to.
These are facts of history, and you can't get away from it.
Yes,
you know.
Yes,
yeah.
So
absolutely. So
congratulations to Herman.
Absolutely. Francis, thank you so much, and please give my regards to Auntie Anne.
Yes, she's doing good. All right. So continue doing what you're doing, Kelon. God bless. Much love and respect always. Thanks very much.
All right, folks. That was Francis Urias Peters, and if you are in Grenada, please definitely go watch that play at the Labucan Theatre there down on at the Kirani James Boulevard. And before we go to the break, just a couple other updates on behalf of the Presentation Brothers College alumni 75th anniversary celebrations committee. There is the tennis tournament. They're having a table tennis tournament there at the school, and that table tennis tournament would be happening at the Presentation Brothers College auditorium on the Tuesday 29th and Thursday 31st of March 2022. Registration is available online, and it's an opportunity for both past and current students to mingle and interact and bond and break bread as the school celebrates 75 years. Additionally, there are also commemorative coins available, 75th anniversary commemorative coins that is available and distributed by members of the 75th anniversary management committee for the institution. And finally, I believe there's one final announcement where PBC is concerned. Yes, the raffle. Please get your raffle books. Those raffle books are available at the school and available with any past student on the management committee as the institution raised funds in its 75th year of service to Grenada. And so we want to take a quick break, and we will be back with our guest. I'm happy to be joined by my guest here, Miss Leslie and Sion, and certainly we very pleased that you can appear on the program today. So stand by with us as we have a conversation on the state of women in Grenada and the Caribbean. Stand by, folks.
Queen Nani. According to legend, Queen Nani was born in what is today Ghana, of the Ashanti people. There are two versions of her story, one where she came to Jamaica as a free woman of royal blood, and in the other she came as a slave but then escaped by jumping off the ship while it was still docked offshore. Whichever is true, it is maintained that she was always free in Jamaica. She fled to the mountains and settled with other Maroons on a ridge high above the planter settlements. By 1720, she headed a large community made up of free and runaway slaves. This settlement was eventually named Nani Town. Queen Nani organized and led her people in extended fight against English subjugation and enslavement, often raiding plantations for weapons, burning the plantations, and leading free slaves to join them in the mountains. During a period of 30 years, she was credited with freeing more than 1,000 slaves. Her Maroons were innovators in guerrilla warfare. They used surprise, the knowledge of their terrain, and cleverly chosen positions to their advantage in fights against the British. Nani's troops were so proficient at disguising their location that the British soldiers circulated tales of trees in the forest becoming alive and cutting one's head off. To heighten the enemy's fear, Nani's forces never killed all of the attacking force. She would always allow a remnant to live to return to base and relay the story and horror of the encounter. Nani's life and accomplishments have been recognized by the government of Jamaica, and she has been honored as a national hero and awarded the title of Right Excellent. Claudia Jones was a Caribbean revolutionary intellectual and community organizer who combined Marxist-Leninism, decolonization, anti-imperialism, and anti-sexist politics to make sense of the social and political situation of her day. Jones was born in 1915 in Port of Spain, Trinidad. Jones moved to the US as a child, from where she was later exiled for her communist beliefs after serving 9 months in prison. Jones moved to the UK in 1955 and was a part of a larger movement of black writers and artists who aimed to empower black diaspora through cultural education and representation. Following the Notting Hill riots, where gangs of white residents attacked the homes of their West Indian neighbors, Claudia sought to wash the taste of Notting Hill out of our mouths. Carnival and its bright celebration of black freedom in the Caribbean was a perfect way to heal, and Claudia organized the first Caribbean Carnival in Notting Hill, paving the way for what is the largest street festival in Europe today. Jones's Carnival was mainly celebrated by West Indians and became a yearly festivity until her death in 1964. Although considered a female political and intellectual equivalent of C.L.R. James, the exclusion of her insights and analysis from historical discussion has set back the urgent theorizing of questions concerning women in general and black women in first and third world countries.
And welcome back, folks. At this time, I'm happy to be joined by Leslie and Sion, an attorney. You actually wear many hats. You are an attorney. You were a former legislator or facilitating legislative sessions as the president of the Senate. You are a businesswoman. You are a podcast host. And you are everything that I believe a woman should aspire to. And you're juggling so much. And so we're very happy to have you here as we wrap up Women's History Month. Certainly, we here at the Bubb Report, we love to highlight women, and we love to highlight change makers and people who are making an impact and making a difference in our societies. So, Leslie Ann, the first question I want to ask you is, Leslie Sion was your dad, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Absolutely. Now, Leslie Sion, as a student of media history in Grenada, Leslie Sion was someone that I heard a lot about and the role that he played in broadcasting in Grenada. So yes. I feel very pleased to be in the presence of the daughter of such a great Grenadian broadcaster, who I believe has not received the recognition that he should be receiving, but which I'm hoping to change when I publish my second book on great Grenadian broadcasters. So it's a pleasure having you here again.
Thank you so much, Kellen. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for remembering my dad. I too feel that he hasn't quite received the recognition for his contribution to broadcast journalism in Grenada and the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, let us talk about the role that women play in Grenadian society and the impact that they continue to have. How have women shaped Grenadian society in this modern period? But in looking at Grenadian history, what role have they played in really shaping the society that we have today?
Yes, well, women have always played a very significant role in the development of the home, in the development of their communities, and in the development of their country. Grenada,
I think we lost Leslie, and there might be some connectivity
of our labor
issues.
and workforces, and our contribution to the development not only of our children, but to the development of our nation. So we historically have had a lot of firsts. As you know, the first female governor of the Commonwealth was Dame Hilda Bino. Eva Louise Sylvester was the first woman elected to the Legislative Council in 1951. We've had women always in the vanguard of various movements. If you read Dr. Nicole Phillips' book on women between 1783, I think, and 1983, you will get a summary of the significant contributions that women have made. So I feel that in the modern context, this continues, but I would like to see us advance in more non-traditional areas. And I think that's the landscape that we need to conquer now.
When you say non-traditional areas, can you expand on the idea of women advancing in non-traditional areas?
Yes. Well, I'm speaking in particular about STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I would like to see our girls and our women moving more in that direction. I would like to see them being very active participants in the digital transformation, because this is the new construct. This is the way society is evolving, and we have to keep up with it. And if we're talking about gender equality, then we can't stay in the background. We have to immerse ourselves into that new culture. And it for me, for instance, with women in science, when we look at the contributions to medicine and biomedical research, we need to have women in the forefront of inventions and patents and so on, because they will focus more on the female health issues, for instance. So there is an opening, a vacuum that needs to be filled by their participation in those areas. And then in non-traditional occupations, for instance, I see women having the ability to be joiners, to be carpenters, to be air-conditioned technicians, refrigerator technicians, mechanics. We must not feel that these are just male industries. We also have the ability to do that, so we must diversify as well.
And I'm glad you make that point, because our society is so rigidly aligned along these very strict gender lines, gender roles. Yes, that sometimes when you see a woman, as an auto mechanic, then they would call her a tomboy, or sometimes you hear men in Grenada say that, oh, well, that woman is driving like a man. Why isn't she driving like a woman? Or why is she just driving, period, right?
Yes.
And there is always the tendency to give women who get out of that particular strict gender construct and do something differently, right? We always give them a second look. And I think that is something we're still struggling with as a society.
Yes, we constantly struggle against that, because we are brought up in a society that believes that there are certain defined roles for men and certain defined roles for women, and that sometimes we really shouldn't be crossing over into these boundaries, because this is really male territory and this is female territory. But I think that the history of women globally has sort of shattered these barriers now. And it really shouldn't be novel anymore. It shouldn't be something unique and peculiar as we embark upon these things. The comment that you made about, driving like a man,
We just wait for her to get back here.
Our society. I apologize for internet disruptions this morning. We've been having some internet connectivity issues.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So I was saying that, we have come so far, Kellon, that really, to me, it is surprising to hear these comments continue, that women are not supposed to be in a particular area of endeavor or industry anymore. I think we've gone past that.
Now, you are blazing your own entrepreneurial scale. And as we wrap up Women's History Month, notwithstanding, I certainly believe in the idea that every month is Women's History Month. The hands
Yes,
that rock the cradle rules the world.
that's right.
What more needs to be done in order to engender more equality in this imbalanced world? Now, and you mentioned STEM, and that is so critical. At my university, we encourage organizations such as Girls Who Code
Yes,
to get young people involved in young women involved in coding, for example, right?
yes.
To get them involved in auto mechanics, as you indicated before, and other non-traditional areas. And I think sometimes we tend to view women as wanting to only hold academic jobs, if you will, right? And that mold needs to be broken. So how do we get to that place? What needs to happen in order for us to have a more gender balanced world in that context?
Right. Well, I think it starts with education. And it starts with education at the primary level, that girls must be taught that the world is their oyster and that they can conquer anything that they put their mind to, and that there is no predefined boundaries or territories for them to conquer. They can conquer it all. They just have to be focused. They have to have the right tools and the right foundation upon which to build. So in the education process, an important element is mentorship. And so as women, as we've become career women, we're succeeding in our different professions and vocations, we have to find it incumbent on ourselves to have our girls model after us, to inspire them, to motivate them, to encourage them, to support them as they're growing up, and give them the kind of support that they need. Because many times, especially children growing up in lower income households, they find that these are far-fetched dreams and that they lack the encouragement or the incentive to aspire to those higher levels. But if we as women who are successful or in the process of being successful also look back to lend a hand and bring those up, then these dreams are not as far-fetched as we think. So it's a lot about collaboration, it's a lot about giving the support, and it's a lot about inspiring our girls.
And you make a very important point there. Now, and reflecting and growing up, I would always hear some folks in the older vanguard talk about girls are to be seen and not heard, or if a young woman decided that she wanted to do something that was out of the mold, that was out of the ordinary, you would hear comments such as, well, she inding or she push up, right? And you hear these comments.
Yes.
And sometimes in reflecting on this, that is such I hesitate to use the word backward.
Yes.
But it speaks to patriarchal thinking, right?
Correct. Yes.
In the way that we view women. So your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, one of the first things I think we have to learn is we don't do things by the dictates of others. And we don't take action because we think somebody will like or not like it. We do it because we think it's right. We do it because we believe we have the ability to do it, and not just do it, but do it well and excel. So you have to put aside the noise. The noise is just a distraction to your purpose. Keep your compass steady. Know the direction in which you're headed. Don't be afraid to move beyond neutral. Come out of the comfort zone. Accomplish, advance, succeed, and have others, along with you. That's the importance of it. It's almost like it's selfish, but it's unselfish in the way you execute the action. So it's selfish because you're focused on doing this for yourself or for your family, but you're unselfish because along with you on your journey to that success, you are bringing others with you. That's how I like to approach it.
Absolutely. And let's get to some comments here. Bob Marishow is saying Leslie Sion was undoubtedly one of Grenada's best in the business. Vaguely remembers Lesbian, but I played lawn tennis against her elder brother, who played extremely well and way better than me. I believe that's Derek.
That's correct, yes.
And then Margaret Francis saying, indeed, Leslie was one of the great ones. I had the pleasure of working with him. Whenever Margaret and these people make these comments, I'm green with envy because I really wanted to work with some of these greats. I did work with Leslie Pear.
Yes.
Actually, my very first job in Grenada was with the late great Leslie Pear. Correct.
Right.
So I'm cut from that cloth. Leslie Pear, George Grant,
Yes.
these folks. And then we have another comment here from N.F. Slinger. So as a woman, in a non-traditional field who was the first in my field in Grenada, I remain humbly and eternally grateful to the work of the women of the revolution who set the agenda for the role of women in national development. I have benefited tremendously from this policy, and almost 40-year journey has been so gratifying as a woman as the head of consultancy in the construction field.
Fantastic.
And that is what you're speaking to as well, right?
Exactly. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. I'll tell you a quick story too about non-traditional fields. I was reading the other day about Annette Gorman.
We're just going to wait, folks. She's having some internet.
Yes.
Go ahead. So you were talking about Annette Gorman. Go ahead.
Yes, the Rear Admiral who is chief. Yes, I'm
go ahead.
so sorry.
No. Go ahead. We have no control over it. Yes, the Rear Admiral in Jamaica. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, so she is chief of the Jamaica Defense Force. And I was thinking how astonishing is this achievement for a woman to be in the Caribbean military and to get to the very pinnacle of it. It's an example for our girls that, if you're interested in the military, there is room for you at the top.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, let us get to, in the context of Grenada, we're going from big picture to sort of more concrete issues in the context of the country. 1 in every 3 women in Grenada has or will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. This coming out of a national survey on gender-based violence that was done and revealed that 29% of all women experience at least one form of violence, in line with the global average that 1 in 3 women will experience physical and or sexual violence during their lifetime. How do we break this deeply entrenched bias?
Yes, it is a very sad statistic. It really is sometimes a poor reflection of how we live in our societies. But I'll tell you that a lot of this begins from the home. There's that old saying, charity begins at home. And we have to understand that sometimes our upbringing dictates how we behave as adults. And so it's very important from an early age that we learn how to interact with others, that we learn how to manage disagreements and discord, that we learn how to resolve conflict without being privy to violence. Because, historically speaking, you have to understand a lot of times in relationships, men thought that was the way you showed dominance over a woman, that for her to obey, so to speak, and for her to listen to you and to follow your directions, then you had to use force. That she couldn't match up to your standards. If you're suffering from insecurity, lack of confidence, as she seemingly seems to progress, then you lash out on her. It's a problem that has been kept on a cork. A lot of people don't like discussing it, but I believe it is directly related to mental health, and that sometimes our males have had unfortunate circumstances around them where they've actually seen this most of their childhood. Coming up to adult, and they feel that's the only way to act and react. So a lot of it has to do with education. A lot of it has to do with mental health counseling and providing the public health infrastructure that will enable us to speak about this openly and frankly, and to find ways to resolve the issues and nip it in the bud as soon as it starts to surface. I'll tell you, recently there was a news item about a young kid interacting with a policeman in a very, violent way, so to speak. And I was dismayed at it. But it took me back to, what Urias, your previous guest, was talking about, the mental health crisis that has emerged during this pandemic. And I have said that the fact that our children have been locked in their homes, locked into screens and devices because that's what they have to do for schooling, the inability to interact with others and socialize with others, suddenly everything is repressed and now opening back up as you start to recirculate, as you start to reintegrate into society. So it's like a learning process again. How we deal with people, how we deal with simple little arguments. You don't know what's going on in the home. You don't know what's going on in the mind of the kids. And really it begins with them and the parenting that we adopt and the approaches that we take. Too much is on teachers. and some responsibility has to be borne on the parents as well.
Absolutely. Now, what we want to do, we want to take a quick break, but when we come back, as we close the program, we want to talk about your podcast. I had an opportunity to listen to 1 or 2 episodes, and I was really impressed. First of all, I'm not too sure why you're not in full-time broadcasting, because you do have a broadcaster's voice. I think you really inherited that from your dad.
DNA probably.
But we will take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Very proud of what you're doing, and I think it's much needed. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you again for watching the Bubb Report. Viewers and listeners, we want to thank you sincerely. Senator Chester Humphrey, welcome to the Bubb Report. Mr. Mitchell, welcome to the program. The Honorable Jumani Williams, we call him Jumani, who is the public advocate for the city of New York. The Honorable Basdio Pandey, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Pandey, welcome to the Bubb Report. Why would we have ambassadors representing the state that do not understand clearly what their terms of reference are?
To the cards that I have drawn that I am the minister at this point in time. And for members of the public...
But you're also a servant of the people. The unions are not threatening to withdraw their labor, and neither are they threatening to shut the country down, as you did.
I think your summarization of my position is highly inaccurate, and may I dare say a bit inflammatory.
The strategy did not work the last time for you. So what would make this?
Well, you're assuming that we doing the same strategy.
And welcome back, folks. I'm joined here by my final guest for the program this week, Leslie Sion, former president of the Grenada Senate. She's also an attorney and the host of Sion 180. Let us talk about the genesis behind the podcast, Sion 180, that goes beyond neutral, as the theme suggests.
Yes. Well, I have to tell you, I really started seriously thinking about this during the pandemic. You know, out of every tragedy, there is an opportunity. And because of the broadcasting connection, which you mentioned before with my dad, I always had an interest in this, you know, from the time I was a child. The question was, how could I interweave that while I'm still a busy attorney heading a law firm? But in the pandemic, you did a lot of soul searching. You had a lot of time to contemplate your life, your purpose, your mission, your objectives. And as Urias said, you know, you're getting on to the last third or half of your life. You start thinking, well, what have I done? What do I need to do next? What can I offer as a legacy? What can I contribute to my country, my countrymen? And it came up in the form of a podcast, because I do listen to podcasts while I'm driving or, you know, just exercising or in the house. And so I wanted it to be a Caribbean platform. I wanted to have Caribbean voices. I wanted us in the Caribbean to hear our people speak to the issues that matter to us, whether it's professional or personal. It could be hard topics or soft topics. It was meant to entertain, to educate, to inspire, to motivate, and just to hear you know, people speak about their own experiences, their expertise, their skills, and what they can offer, because I want us to feel in the Caribbean that we are not defined by our boundaries of small islands, whether we're Jamaica in the north or whether we're, you know, in Grenada or Trinidad and Tobago, that we all have astonishing abilities to accomplish many things. And so hearing from a diversity of voices and a diversity of experience can encourage the least among us to aspire. So that's what it's about. It's fun, fearless, frank discussions. It's about me coming out of neutral, coming out of my safe zone. I was petrified at the thought of putting myself out there at the beginning. Just like you say, you know, they think you in ding, you know, that sort of stuff.
So you playing ting, who you think you is.
Yeah, where you come out? Why you stay in your lane?
Right, that's right.
You know, you're a lawyer already, leave that alone. You know, so all of these thoughts, honestly and frankly, went through my mind. But I believe that I had something to offer, Kellon, just as you do every week on the Bubb Report. and it was incumbent on me to follow through on this ambition of mine to delve into the field of podcasting as a way of connecting or reconnecting with my dad, and the fact that I witnessed his passion for broadcasting, and that passion translated to me, but I've just always sort of kept it in check. He used to tell me that broadcast journalism is a pauper's profession, so I think you should focus on something else. In those days, you didn't have the number of opportunities that you have now to translate into income earning, streams out of broadcast journalism, as you know now.
Absolutely. And what are some of the issues that you plan to tackle, or some of the guests that you plan to feature next month, for example, moving forward?
Right. Yes. So we're tackling issues such as financial health, money matters. We're speaking with a financial educator, an author, public speaker who's speaking about managing money from the time you're a child, managing money in the home, understanding that there is incumbent on you a need to pass on generational wealth. Don't, adopt that strict attitude that now the children will see about themselves. Mental health, unlocking the taboos, the stigma towards mental health, why we should not be ashamed of getting help when we need it, the areas that we need to consider for counseling. We've spoken with Farley Flex out of Toronto, Canada, as an inspirational speaker to begin the podcast. As you know, he was a former judge on Canadian Idol, and he talked about the 7 C's: the courage, the commitment, the confidence, the curiosity, putting love as the first, point of armor, that, curiosity must conquer fear, that there is no such thing as bad people, but bad choices, and that we have to be ruled by the choices we take for the journey that we end up, embarking upon. So I like the podcast in the sense of it containing a takeaway message that's simple, pragmatic, and useful for our audience. And that is the way I would like to continue. So we released one today, which was on the one Money Matters. And our next one will be handling the topic of leadership, a complex and heavily layered topic that should be interesting for our audience.
And I'm glad you mentioned Money Matters, because that is not something that is taught. Of course, they teach us principles of business, but really,
yes,
that barely scratches the surface of the
Correct.
financial literacy that we need to navigate the financial world, right?
That's right.
Savings, wills, for example.
Yes,
we should be teaching estate planning in schools.
I agree with you. I agree with you. People are scared of wills, Kellan. They're scared.
And that is something that needs to be taught so that we avoid the bacchanal that emerges when a family member dies.
Absolutely.
Right? If we and so I'm glad to hear you talking about financial literacy. I'm sorry, I get very animated and passionate about this.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're talking about this, and perhaps there would be ways that those streams of knowledge can be incorporated into the school systems, right? Because young people need to know this.
It has to be, Kellan. We cannot run away from it. In Grenada and the Caribbean, we have this shyness and hesitancy about talking about money because it's private, it's exclusive. We shouldn't be dealing with that at all. You have to start in the schools. Commerce, basic principles of business, how to manage money. You put a lump sum of money in a child's purse when they finish secondary school to go on to university. They don't have a clue how to manage it when they're abroad. And they have to pay for an apartment. They have to manage their transportation, their books, their tuition, etc., etc. So we have to start from young. And that's what I liked about Melinda Peter from Barbados, the financial educator who spoke with us about money matters. She said it starts from the time you're a child, a toddler. And she gave us the ways to do that. So I'm totally on board with you on that one. And equally animated.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you also had the director of hospital services in the context of Women's History Month.
Our Brooklyn.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you wanted to do was to really deconstruct these stereotypes and make women more comfortable with having difficult conversations about themselves, things that we consider taboo in society. So could you talk about that?
That's right. And we started with the very first taboo about the use of the word vagina. that we recoil from it because it's such a bad thing, and we try to find all the different words or phrases to describe it. We're afraid to talk about certain female health issues, sexually transmitted diseases, for instance, the problems with fertility, the problems with menopause, the problems with various female cancers. It's all about starting the conversation about women owning their bodies, owning their health, and feeling freedom enough to discuss it in an open and frank way. And so it's just about getting the conversation started. There will be a continuation along those lines. Dementia, for instance, is something that we want to deal with. And so these are important health topics. And Dr. McIntosh was fantastic in terms of the delivery of her message. She's accustomed, of course, to speaking to various groups on women's health in particular, and I would be delighted to have her again to continue our conversation on women's health.
Absolutely. And I will be tuning in. I will definitely be listening just to hear your voice, but of course to hear the other important
But it's
topics
for
that are
men
raised.
too, Kellon. If you cherish your mom, your girlfriend, your wife, your girls, whatever, it's very important that men are also a part of this conversation. I always say women's rights are human rights, which are global rights. And it means all of us together, men and women alike.
Absolutely. Any final parting comments from you? I can talk to you all day, but any final comments before?
Well, first of all, I have to depart a little and tell you how thrilled I am that I was able to see West Indies win and beat England at the National Stadium in Grenada, because I was thinking I wouldn't get a chance to see a cricket ball today, and there it is. You brought it to me live and direct. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you on a few issues that both of us, have a passion about and care about. I encourage my audience in the diaspora and abroad and in Grenada and the Caribbean to listen to Sion 180. It's really discussing us. And it's about us having our connection to and through each other, using our voices in the most profound way that we can. So thank you, Kelly.
Absolutely. We have some comments here. Thank you again. We have a quick comment. Someone is saying, congratulations, Ms. Sion, on your podcast, Sion 180. I encourage you to reflect on such issues as the implementation, impediments, and opportunities of regional integration, especially for women and vulnerable populations across the region. Another viewer is saying, oh my gosh, women's health in Grenada, of all places, because our tiny island is plagued by so much women that we call crazy, right? My late mother was one. People called this viewer's late mother crazy. Yeah. What a stigma, right?
Yeah.
Again, this hopefully ignites something here. So thank you again. Thank you again, Lesian, for your appearance on the program. And I will be coming to you as I conduct research for my book on great Grenadian broadcasters who I believe have never gotten the recognition. People like your dad, the late Leslie Pierre, Alistair Hughes, Lou Smith, so many great broadcasters, Josephine Maguire, Eugenie Mason, there's so many of them. And so we want to document that into a book. So thank you again for appearing on the program.
Thank you so much, Kellen. Have a brilliant Sunday. Thank you.
Absolutely. And cheers to Team West Indies.
And cheers to Team West Indies. Made my day.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Viewers and listeners, that was my conversation with Leslie and Sion as we wrapped up Women's History Month. We want to thank you again for your participation on the program by way of your comments, by way of your listenership, by way of your viewership. So once again, on behalf of the hardworking producers of the Bubb Report, I am your host, Dr. Kellen Bubb. Have a safe week, everyone. Bye-bye.